So we got some words of wisdom here from Dakota Johnson. And they're commenting on the failure of Madam Web. Did you know that Madam Web was out? I personally didn't even go to see it. I'm like, oh, it's Marvel shit. Like, the brand is so toxic that I'm not even interested anymore. It's like, okay, so a superhero, Marvel shit, probably oozing with diversity, inclusivity, equity, American stuff. Meh. I already heard it by now. It's like, okay, so it's going to be like a super sanitized film. I seen one, I seen them all. I'm not even interested. Come up with a new production, you lazy fucks. But anyway, right, what does Dakota Johnson has to say? It's so hard to get movies made, and in these big movies that get made, and it's even starting to happen with the little ones, which is what's really freaking me out. Decisions are being made by committee, and art does not do well when it's made by committee. Too many cooks in the kitchen? Johnson answered, films are made by a filmmaker and a team of artists around them. Yeah, sounds kind of like the movies that I grew up with, like Star Wars was Lucas and a team of artists around them. Yeah, that sounds about right. You cannot make art based on numbers and algorithms. My feeling has been that for a long time, the audience is extremely smart, and executives have started to believe that they're not. Audience will always be off to sniff bullshit. Even if films start to be made by AI, humans aren't going to fucking want to see those. So, let's talk a little bit about the audience being dumb. I don't think like the executives think that the audience are stupid. What they believe is that the audience is captured. What they believe is that they're selling crack. So, if you look at, let's say, Star Wars, they believe that they already have the audience if they purchase the IP, right? So, like, the audience comes with the IP. So, if you bought Star Wars, the people that like Star Wars now will watch Star Wars no matter what. Like, you can do whatever you want with the IP. The people that watch Star Wars now will always watch it forever because they're hooked. So then they believe, okay, well, if we have Star Wars, and most of the people that are watching are men, what if we make some changes so that women like it? And then you have the men that already like it, and you add the women and you double the audience. This is what they believe by the modern audience, right? So they make their stupid changes, and the changes that they do, they're not doing it by consulting women. Like, they're not actually going and polling, right? Like, your mother and your grandmother was never polled on what would it take for her to watch Star Wars. No, they hire a chucklehead, an ideologue that finished gender studies, that believes that she studied women at the university, and she knows what women want because she's a woman herself, right? And that's how it works. Like, if you're a man, you know what every single other man in the United States wants. Like, you already have the knowledge. You know how to please all men just because you're a man, right? Like, that's how it, unironically, this is how they believe it works. So, they add Rey, and they're making her a Mary Sue, and they're doing all of the shit that, like, desexualizing everything, and, okay. The thing is, like, the original audience doesn't like the changes, and it turns out that they're not addicted to crack, so, like, if you make bad changes, if you ruin the franchise, they stop watching. It's entertainment, it's not food, they don't have to buy it. So you're losing the men. And are you gaining some women? Like, maybe, but, like, you're not getting more than the men that you lost, and you're definitely not getting all the women. Because if all the women would watch these progressive shows, if all the minorities would watch these progressive shows, they wouldn't be going bankrupt. They wouldn't have to sack people, they wouldn't call it a flop. And that is the problem. They're taking the audience for granted. They're basically believing that they will always watch the slop, no matter how bad the slop gets. They don't understand that there are certain things that men like and certain things that women like. For instance, my mother didn't like to see violence in movies. There is no way that she would like to watch Star Wars where people get decapitated and they have their hands sliced off. Like I'm normalized with that. I like that. seeing in my entertainment. But you need to understand that, like, there are women out there that don't like it. Probably there are some men as well, I don't know. But it's not controversial here to say that women do not like to see dismemberment. And this is why, like, Disney gets rid of dismemberment. If you look at their Star Wars video games that are coming out, they're like, oh, well, you can't dismember people. Like, even though you're using lightsabers that can slice people in half, there's no dismemberment. And they were met with a backlash from the community. Is that enough to convince some people not to buy the game? Maybe. I don't know. But, like, all these small changes that are going against what the initial thing was are not received well by the original fan base. And after you make a lot of these small changes, it will be enough to convince someone that, and say, yeah, I don't think I want to watch this anymore. This is not for me. I'm going to watch something else where hands get sliced off. Because there are people that actually like slasher movies, you know? They like to see their Jason Voorhees. They like to see their Nightmares on Elm Street. They got popular around the world for a reason, because people like that stuff, you know? They like the Chainsaw Massacre from Texas. There are people who enjoy that. Now, Star Wars wasn't like that, but it did have certain elements like that, and people enjoy it. It adds a certain level of emotion. It adds a certain level of gravitas. Like, oh my god, he lost his hand. You know, that was a powerful moment in the original Star Wars. If he didn't lose his hand, it wouldn't be like that. You know, if Luke just got, let's say, a modern Disney adaptation, right? Like, he would just get bruised. He would get punched in the face and then fall down from that platform. It wouldn't have the same impact. Like, that scene is memorable specifically because he lost his hand, and then the reveal afterwards. That, like, everything in that scene was perfect. It dialed your emotions to 11. And if you get rid of that, then you do not have something special. You have something sanitized, something bland. But anyway, right, let's look at the writer issue. Now, here you have Batman Arkham Asylum, and I gotta say, you know, if you play the original games, a lot of people have played them now, because of Suicide Squad coming out. It's like, oh, you know what, I actually do want to play a Batman game. If you can get over the graphics, which were limited by the technology at the time, the game is fucking amazing. It's absolutely amazing. And the gameplay isn't, you know, really that great. I mean, all you have to do is to press a button to block. Or sorry, to parry. And that's pretty much like how old the combat is. But, like, the story is so good. The immersion is there. The character is there. Like, Harley Quinn is really driving the show with her titties. Everything fits, you know? So people can overlook the bad gameplay, which is a ripoff of Assassin's Creed, by the way. Where, again, you're surrounded by, like, 10 guys, and they attack one after another, and if you press parry when the thing comes up on the screen, you win, right? So there used to be, like, a mocking of this gameplay, press parry to win. Gameplay isn't that good. But it makes out with other things, right? Makes out with the story, makes out with the atmosphere, with the immersion, how original it is to the lore. It actually feels like you're playing Batman in the cartoon that you watched. It's very, very lore accurate, basically. And it only had 2 writers. Right? Only had 2 writers. You don't usually need more than 2 writers. And as the games progress and they get bigger budgets, you notice that they have more and more writers. And surprisingly, it doesn't necessarily make the story better. And I will explain why. But, like, as you're getting to Gotham Knights, 14 fucking writers. 14 fucking writers. Really? Writing by committee. 2 of which were Sweet Baby. So 2 of which were there to make sure that everything is sanitized, there's no jokes, the titties are removed, etc. And by the way, we only know that 2 of these writers are from Sweet Baby. God knows if they had other consultancy groups. And then the game, which tanked fantastically, half of the writers were just consultants. So 13 writers, out of which 13 mortal busybodies. Now for my game, I have another writer, so it's myself and someone else. And often enough, we do clash our creative differences. And I would be like, well, this succubus needs to act this way. And he's like, no, he needs to act that way. It slows down the process. It's not always a good thing. However, I would say that it's nice because you bounce up ideas, you role play. It's like, what would this character say in this situation? What would the response be? So you get like some really good creative thing going on. Like true writers are great because you can break through the writing block, basically. However, like, you know, too many chefs in the kitchen is bad because, again, like, creative differences, you clash. However, true writers mean that you actually understand the characters. You know their personalities, you know what motivates them, you can stay true to the character. But when you have 26 writers, do you honestly want me to believe that all these writers are on the exact same page with the characters? That all these writers are no, like, it's impossible to do that. Writing by committee like this is going to guarantee that your characters' personalities are going to be shit. I would say that maybe like 3 writers is the maximum. Like, you would have 2 writers that actually write the story, and maybe like 1 extra writer that would write the action scenes, right? So like, you'd have 1 writer that does just the combat scenes. It's like Joker gets punched in the face, falls on the ground, looks around, finds a gun, aims it at Batman, and a Batarang just comes out and pulls his gun out of his hand. You know, like that type of stuff. Because, you know, writing personalities and characters is one thing, writing action scenes may be another. So, like, sure, you can have, like, another writer for that. You know what, I would push it even further. Like, maybe you have, like, another writer that just does the environmental stuff, like what the gangsters are talking, and, you know, to take a load off of the main writers. But I guarantee to you, this is not what they did with 26 writers. And nothing is worse than being a writer and having, like, an editor, like from Sweet Baby, that just crushes your ideas. It's like, oh no, we can't have the gangster say this because this gangster is of color and it would encourage harmful stereotype. And you're like, shut the fuck up. You know, like if you're passionate about writing and you actually pour your soul in as an artist, and you keep having, like, this fat, morbid, corporeal manifestation of an HR hag over you, and she's, like, constantly just shutting down your ideas, you're going to feel not interested in writing anymore. You're just going to say, okay, well, what does she want to hear? And you're just going to churn that out. It's like, here, yeah. Writing doesn't come like that, you know? Like if you're not allowing the writer to be creative, and not to mention, if you're a talented writer, like, let's say you have a lot of video games under your belt, you're an industry expert, and you've wrote great pieces in the past, and then you have, like, the fat, morbid, corporeal manifestation of an HR hack looming over you. And she's the one that calls the shot. And you're like, bitch, what did you write? What is your resume? Oh, you didn't write anything. No one likes the shit you wrote. You just went to gender studies and you learned what's offensive and what isn't. And you're using what your university professor taught you 8 years ago to judge my work on it. That is humiliating. That is disgusting. Like, no artist is going to be able to keep producing. You know, they're going to go there for a paycheck, which is the last thing you want with a creative mind. It's the last thing you want with an artist or a writer, to just go there to cash in a paycheck. And they're going to be like, okay, well, I'll just check all the diversity boxes that they want. Oh, here we go. And then I hope you're happy. The audience isn't going to be happy. Let me know what you guys think. And as usual, I'll see you in the comment section. Take care.